Coach Willie Green saying that x-rays of Zion's injured finger came back clean. He's day-to-day going forward. Zion injured the left middle finger midway through the fourth quarter of last night's loss to the Magic. Did not play the remainder of the game, but good news today with the x-rays on the finger. After 2 months of rehab, Knicks forward Julius Randle will have season-ending surgery on his right shoulder. Randle dislocated his shoulder January 27th and hoped to return for the playoffs, but doctors said that continued instability in the shoulder made it unsafe for his return.
Staying in the NBA after making a triumphant return in Tuesday's win over the Thunder, Sixers center Joel Embiid is listed as questionable tonight against the Heat. Remember, Embiid scored 24 points in 29 minutes Tuesday after missing 9 weeks following knee surgery.
Julius Randle is done for the season. Woj reporting that he'll have surgery on his right shoulder, which will table him until next season. Randle hasn't played since January 27th when he dislocated the shoulder. Rehab didn't help. Doctors told Randle that the instability in the joint made it unsafe for him to play. And for more on this, we bring in our NBA reporter, Tim Bontemp. So, Tim, I know you're in Miami there with the Sixers, and we're going to get to Joel Embiid and his story in just a minute. But first, Julius Randle, where do the Knicks go from here?
Well, David, this is obviously a crushing blow to a Knicks team that, if you go back to the start of January when they traded for OG Anunoby, through those first 14 games with OG Anunoby and Julius Randle on the court, the Knicks looked like one of the best teams in the entire NBA. They went 12-2 in those games. They were outscoring teams by 15 points per 100 possessions, and it looked like that OG trade could lift the Knicks into championship contention territory. But ever since Julius Randle went to the ground at MSG when he took a charge from Jaime Jaquez from the Miami Heat, who will be playing tonight, as you said, against Joel Embiid and the Sixers, Randle has been trying to come back from that shoulder injury, and he's been in a controlled contact phase of his rehab for the past several weeks. And you'd see him out on the court at MSG before games, maniacally working out, trying to get to a place where he could play. But the longer he stayed in that controlled contact phase of his rehab and didn't progress to 5-on-5 full contact, you sort of wondered if this was going to be the outcome for him. And as you mentioned, Josh Hart, after the loss to Oklahoma City on Sunday night at MSG, said he and the Knicks are planning to be pleasantly surprised if either OG Anunoby or Julius Randle come back. Obviously, we now know that Julius Randle won't be back. And as you mentioned, Adrian Wojnarowski reported earlier today that not only will Randle have this surgery, but he'll be reevaluated in 5 months. So it is not entirely clear, even if the surgery goes perfectly well, that he'll be ready for the start of the 24-25 season. But obviously, Randle and the Knicks spent the last couple months working really hard trying to get him on the court for this playoff push and what's been a terrific season for the Knicks, who are still trying to get home court advantage in the East. And now if they're going to do it, they're going to do it without Julius Randle.
Devastating blow for the Knicks team right now. 5th in the East and trying to make up ground, but it doesn't look great for them at this point. All right, the reason we were going to have you on, Tim, was Sixers and Heat and Joel Embiid, who came back Tuesday. Had a really nice game, 24 points in 29 minutes, but afterward had some comments about not feeling good. It's expected he's not going to feel 100% physically, but he made reference to being depressed during his recuperation. It just sort of was concerning. What are you hearing about Embiid ahead of tonight's game?
Well, just to clarify a little bit, David, what Embiid was talking about was he's obviously dealt with a lot of injuries throughout his career. And he said that the rehab process for this injury and the fact that he suffered this injury when Jonathan Kuminga fell on that left leg in Golden State at the end of January was as depressed as he's been coming back from an injury in his career. And I think part of that, David, is frankly because of just how dominant Joel Embiid was playing. Remember, he's coming off winning his first MVP last year. He was averaging more points than minutes played, something no one other than Wilt Chamberlain has ever done in the history of the league. And he had the Sixers, even after the James Harden trade, right in the middle of the mix to be in a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. So now, as you said, Embiid was able to play 29 minutes on Tuesday, felt good physically coming out of that game. He is questionable for tonight's game, along with Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. We'll find out later about all 3 of them. But the Sixers are used to Joel Embiid being questionable. He's regularly questionable for games and then is able to go. And Embiid himself said Tuesday, as long as there's no setbacks with that knee, and he was here at the Kaseya Center and participated in shoot-around, he will be able to go tonight. So we'll see in a couple hours where that sits.
All right. Sixers currently in the 8th spot. That's a play-in position. We'll see where they wind up as we really are rounding up the end of the season here. Tim giving us the very latest from Miami. Going through the paces today in Cleveland ahead of tomorrow night's national semifinal game against UConn. The Huskies have 11 national titles, the Hawkeyes none. but Iowa a slight favorite in this game tomorrow. It's being billed as Clark v. Beckers, but that woman, Lisa Bluter, isn't going for that. That's new on SportsCenter.
Obviously, we have one of the best players in the country on our team, and we're thrilled to have that. But I do not want this to be a game that's promoted as Caitlin versus Paige, and I know it already has been, but I don't want that. I want it to be Iowa versus UConn, and let these two women do what they do best.
They know what's going on out there. They know who's who. They know what's what. And Caitlin comes down and makes a huge three. Don't think that Paige is going to pass the next one up and pass it to somebody. So I think there will be a little bit of that, but it won't be, if I score more points than Caitlin, Connecticut's going to win. It won't be that at all. And it won't be, I have to match everything that she does. Paige's personality is such that she'd rather score 10 points and us win than get 50 and us lose.
Like Caitlin, she's grown in her team aspect. You know, just having really good players around them and relying on those other really great players and not having to do everything yourself.
Two of the great stars of the game. Can't wait for this one. Our ESPN betting analyst, Aaron Dolan, joining us now to talk it over. When I saw the spread, and I talked about this with you earlier, I thought 2.5 points doesn't seem like a lot that Iowa's favored by. They've been so good this year. They have Caitlin Clark. But I'm a rank amateur. You're a sharp. So how are you seeing this game and the other semifinals?
You got high expectations for me. All right, everybody, deep breath. We're going UConn plus 2.5. Now, 91% of the money is on Iowa. The public loves them. Why wouldn't they? They love Caitlin Clark. They've been betting them nonstop the entire tournament, but I think this is going to be closer than people suspect. Plus, the line hasn't been moving despite all that money coming in on Iowa. It's still at 2.5. Paige Beckers could be having a really big game in this one. I think it's going to be a close one, so I'm taking the points. I'm also taking the points with NC State. It's a lot of points, 11.5. Now, I know South Carolina, they are the better team. I think they win this game, but it comes down to by how much. If we look at double-digit favorites already so far in this tournament, they're 8-18 against the number. Not to mention, look back, they've covered 3 of 4 tournament games. It's going to be a scrappy one, so 11.5, I have to take the points with that one rather than lay it with South Carolina.
See, that's why we bring you in. You have data to back up what you said. We just sort of throw it against the wall and hope.
At the end of the day, it's betting, you know? It's just anything can happen.
All right, so the Gamecocks, we're on the Gamecocks. Dawn Staley, her team 36-0, 2 more games to go. Insane. Can they close the deal on the perfect season? Here's Staley, new on SportsCenter.
You want to win. I mean, your competitive juices are flowing. You can see the finish line. You can see it. You can see it. For us, we can see it. And it's not disrespecting the process or not disrespecting our opponent. But once you get here, they can see it. NC State can see it. UConn can see it. Iowa can see the end of the finish line. There's 1 and a possible games left for all of us. And I want to win. Flat out, I want to win.
Of course, I think there are 4 coaches that want to win in Cleveland right now. Dawn Staley has gotten her team back to the Final Four with 5 new starters, so we got a lot of candidates for MOP, Most Outstanding Player, with just 4 teams left. How do you see that race going? We got the touchscreen ready to go.
We have 3 players that have odds less than 15-1. Of course, South Carolina's the favorite to win it all, so we see Cardozo up here at plus 100. But the most amount of money, 58% of the money, is coming in on Caitlin Clark, which isn't surprising. As for Becker, she's getting 15% of the money, while Cardozo's getting 2.2% of the money. Now, has there ever been a person to win this award and not actually win the finals? Yes, that was one time, 1991, and it was Dawn Staley. So there's 2 markets right now for the futures. We have the most outstanding player as well as odds to win the national title. Now, I like South Carolina to win it all, okay? But at minus 200, I'm not going to tell you to bet that. But let's say you like Iowa to win it all. You're better off taking them plus 275 than taking Caitlin Clark to win most outstanding player. And then if you look at UConn, you're better off taking Paige Beckers at plus 750 than taking them at plus 700 to win it all. So depending on the market you're looking at, sometimes you can find value. You know, you got to deep dive. It takes some research, takes a little bit of time, but these are 2 of the markets that are available right now. Again,